Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, back with another super secret project video for you. So this idea I came up with today when talking to Greg. I was looking for an idea that I could really get into and give you some more detail on, and that's the pop-up flash in these cameras. How many of you pop the flash up, shoot the picture in auto, and see what you get? All right? What does it end up looking like? Is it only good for X amount of feet? Because the pop-up flash is only good for about 10, 12 or so feet. Where's the pop-up flash good to be used? Well, for a little bit of fill light, but not in auto. What's going to happen if you're at a sporting event and you pop the flash off when you're trying to shoot the field? Well, usually the bald guy in front of you, he's going to be nice and sharp and nice and bright, and everything else is going to usually not look too good. In a professional stadium or at concerts and things like that, there are great lights on the field, great lights on the stage that you don't have to then pop the flash because your camera will compensate, bump the ISO up, and then it will compensate for everything else. But here I want to do a little test. I want to pop the flash off normally and then show you how you can go into manual and get a better exposure where the ambient light is going to fall in the background and give you a much better picture. So I'm going to shoot the first picture in auto, and let's see what it comes up with. We're going to shoot the mannequin over there, the iShoot JPEG mannequin guy. All right, and the camera says that we shot this at 1/60th of a second at f2 at ISO 200, of course with the 35mm 1.8. Now let's do the same thing but in manual. Now I'm going to set the camera myself a little differently. I am shooting at f4 at 1/10 of a second at ISO 800. And now we're going to see this shot. Boom. There we go. What does this look like? Well, you can now see both pictures on the screen and see what happens. In the first picture, which is right here, popping up now, boom, it just looks flat and boring. And that's what happens when you just pop a flash off and let the flash just go out there and expose. It's a problem most people have when shooting with flash. But in the second shot right here, boom, you see the ambient light falling in. Why is the ambient light falling in? The light is falling in because we shot at 1/10 of a second. The shutter, when you heard it click, sounded like it was staying open longer, which means the flash goes off and exposes your subject well. And then the ambient light still has time to go in while the shutter is open and fill in the rest of the image. So now we went from flat to dimension, because the background now looks like something and it doesn't just look like you used the flash. So the reason you want to shoot in manual is because it gives you control over your light. It gives you control over everything of the camera. We always talk about shooting in manual, but it's good to practice with the flash and try different shutter speeds and different apertures, and depending on your situation, it can add major dimension or interest to your photos. For example, when I was shooting the wedding a couple weeks ago, I slowed the shutter speed down to about an 1/8 of a second and shot the dance floor going. The flash would go off, then people would dance, the ambient light was spinning around, and that would fill in the rest of the image. So people were frozen, looked good to begin with, and then there was some blur coming in, different lights moving around. So there's many different things you can do with a flash, but the most simple thing to remember here is when you're shooting photos with a flash, it doesn't have to stay at 200 ISO. You have a flash. Your flash will make it will seem like it has more power the higher ISO that you use. That's because the flash goes off and it doesn't have to, it can travel further before the shutter has to close. That's why we let the ambient light fall in at 1/10 of a second. So I know that's a little confusing, I think, but really, bump your ISO up slightly. This is at 800 ISO in the D3000. I shoot the D3S sometimes at 4000 ISO in certain light situations just to get that ambient light in the background to fall in. When you just pop off a flash and don't play with your shutter speeds or just stick with the camera settings, it looks flat like this picture, boom, right here. But when you drag the shutter, you let it stay open longer. By dragging, that means a slower shutter speed, and bumping your ISO up higher, you get something that looks like this. Boom. And there you go. So hopefully that is helpful and gives you something to play around with when you are playing with your Flash. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.